Welcome to InterPartyConflict, the podcast where we answer your questions so you can have the best tabletop gaming experience possible. My name is David Pumpkins.
And my name is David S. Pumpkins.
No, my name is Gabe.
And my name is Jeff.
And we're going to answer your questions today. But first, I want to say happy October to everybody.
Yay.
Now, by the time that this episode comes out, October will have been around for a little while. But this is the first episode we're recording in October.
Yeah.
I love October.
Yep.
It is probably my overall favorite month of the year. I love Halloween. I love fall. October is also the month in which I got married.
Yes.
So 10th anniversary.
Oh, yeah.
My 10th anniversary will have passed by the time this episode comes out.
Oh, dang. Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
Well done.
We haven't done anything special for it, and we probably won't do anything. I mean, it's 10 years. I feel like we should, but both of us are working on that day. This is the weekend before. We thought about possibly going on like a little day trip or something, and we're just so lazy. We didn't do anything. We are going on vacation next week, though. So
sure,
in a way, I guess that's kind of
right. Yeah, yeah. Maybe go to like just a nice dinner or something, and then celebrate more on the vacation or whatever.
Yeah, maybe.
But yeah. Every time I come over to Gabe's to record, like even not during October, like just all year round, there are a few Halloween decorations kind of strewn about.
Yeah, a lot of our Halloween decorations are everyday decorations.
Yeah, those are everyday decorations.
Yeah,
but the second October hits, man.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
I come in and there's several things making noise at me.
Yeah.
So
yeah, earlier today we took out all of our decorations and we played with them all, and then we've my wife mainly has been going around and setting them out and stuff. So
yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I love Halloween decorations. I love Halloween movies. I love Halloween TV shows. I can't really say that about any other holiday. I mean, like, I love Thanksgiving and I love Christmas, mainly because I love the food. Yeah. And I love hanging out with family and everything. But, there aren't really Thanksgiving movies or Thanksgiving shows.
Yeah.
And then Christmas shows and movies are, sometimes are good, but they're always like the same kind of, togetherness and so on and so on,
Not many of them have like a unique message.
Exactly. Whereas, I mean, there are Halloween movies that are run the gamut.
Bonkers.
Have you ever seen The Halloween Tree?
No.
It is a really, really good movie. I'll put like a trailer or something in the show notes for this. Someday, Jeff, I need to make you watch this movie. It's a cartoon.
All right.
It's a cartoon that came out in the 90s that
Halloween
I think was written by Ray Bradbury, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. Has Leonard Nimoy as one of the main voices.
Okay.
And it's one of those cartoon movies where it is fun and exciting, but also educational, but not in a way that detracts in any way from the enjoyment of it. Like it is really genuinely good. Oh. So I made Lisa watch it a couple years ago. She really liked it. And so I should make you watch it too. Anyway. So October is here. And actually, I'll mention now, if anybody out there has any Halloween themed questions.
Oh yeah.
We would love to get those. We've gotten a couple through the Discord. I wasn't sure if I wanted to like make like a big thing of asking for Halloween related questions. I was hoping some people would just submit some Halloween related questions, but no luck so far. I know last year we did that really fun question from Nicholas P. I think that was a really fun episode. I would like to have another good Halloween episode this year too. So if anybody has any questions that are either explicitly Halloween themed or could be Halloween themed.
Sure. Yeah.
Questions about monsters, questions about scary adventures, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Like a scary dungeon or haunted this or that.
Yeah. Anything horror. Like that. Go ahead and send those in. Well, actually, let's get to this a little early. Jeff, if somebody had any questions they would like to submit, how would they get those to us?
Oh, shoot. Crap. I don't have that note ready. Let me pull that out. Give me a second.
You're sounding like me being unprepared for the episode.
Oh, crap. You caught me off guard here, Gabe. What was it again? Oh, yeah, here it is. I have it tattooed on my arm. They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
Yes. And also, I'll say one other thing that I'm going to request questions for. If anybody has any questions, sort of like meta questions, if anybody has any questions about the making of the show, about our personal lives, I guess. I mean, not too personal, but like
to an extent.
If you want to know, like, I don't know, what we do in our free time, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
Any questions that are not about about tabletop gaming, I would like to sometime near the end of the year have like a bonus episode or something about, hey, here's I want to say out of game, but it's not out of game because we're not in game, but
right, yeah. So like, what's your favorite color? Where did you bury your hidden treasure? I don't know. That's
sure. I don't know, just like, questions about like editing the show, questions about like, what other names did you almost pick for the show, and so on, stuff, weird stuff like that.
Why interparty conflict?
Well, I mean, I think I've explained why interparty conflict, but like, small spoiler, there were several other names that I came up with before interparty conflict.
Dinner party conflict.
All of which were terrible. I didn't come up with dinner party conflict,
That's right.
Jeff. Skylar did.
Skylar did.
I don't know if I said this, I was going to call it InterPartyConflict.
Yeah.
What does that mean? Nobody knows.
It's
food related.
There's food. Yeah, it's related to food.
Yes.
That counts.
Speaking of food, I guess I'll use that as a segue. Jeff, I want you to imagine that you are standing over a gigantic crock pot. You're cooking like a gigantic stew or something.
Okay.
And
delicious.
It's really hot, and you're like the fumes from the stew are wafting up, and you start to your vision starts to go a little bit blurry.
Uh-oh.
And
what did I put in this?
You're not sure. You don't remember because as you're stirring this, you start to feel a little woozy, and then you pass out and you fall and you hit the floor. When you wake up, that smell of the stew, it wakes you up. But when you open your eyes and you look around, you realize that you are not in your kitchen.
Uh-oh.
You are in a gigantic stone chamber, and you see the reflections from the pilot, the light, the burner under the pot. You see reflections from that, like bouncing off of gold and silver and rubies and gems and all sorts of stuff. And you stand up and you look around, and then you hear a noise. You turn around, and a giant 30-foot tall red dragon puts its face right next to yours and says, "Is it time to eat?" And as you pull at your collar to let out some steam, you realize that somehow you have found yourself in the dragon's hoard.
Hopefully he likes stew.
What kind of meat is in that stew, Jeff?
It's vegan stew.
Oh, that's a wrong answer when you're talking about a dragon. Anyway, so this item today was submitted by Tim D via email. And the item he submitted is called the Seasoned Cook's Utensils. And he submitted this because he said that he likes tool proficiencies in D&D, but in his experience, they don't get used enough, which I can definitely agree with. Before Xanathars came out, they were very poorly explained, and a lot of people used them incorrectly. Yeah. But Xanathars does have it has a bunch more rules on those, so you can use them more in your game.
Right.
But anyway, so this is a set of it's a set of well-used cook's utensils, including a cast iron pan and worn wooden spoon. Received as an heirloom, preferably on some family quest, this set of cooking tools can produce some of the most delicious campfire meals ever produced.
Ooh.
When used to cook food during a long rest, the resulting meal can grant the diner 1d4 plus 4 temporary hit points for up to 6 hours. The number of meals produced depends on the amount of food used to produce the meal. GM's discretion.
Sure.
So, depending on how much food you have, you could produce enough for just one person. You could produce enough for an entire party, maybe an entire army or something if you have enough food.
Sure.
I don't know. I think this is that's it. It's a pretty simple item. I think this is a fun item because you don't really see tools used very much. You especially don't see magic tools used very much.
Sure. Yeah. Like I can't really think of any time I've seen a magic tool or anything like that.
Yeah.
Well, because the idea is the tools are supposed to they're basically skills that would need tools to do so. So like your thieves tools are pretty well known. Everybody uses those. So the idea is that like you couldn't just use sleight of hand to open a lock.
Sure.
In most cases, unless it was a master lock, or like the dial. Or
sure.
Like that. But like I don't think there's many dial locks in D&D lore. But yeah, you're using a set of tools, and so you're proficient in those tools, and then like I guess the tool themselves, you could get magic, so they give you like a bonus or something like that.
Yeah, maybe.
I don't know if there's any rules specifically for like, is there like +1 thieves tools or anything like that? I don't know. But yeah, so, and it's not that you're not adding any bonus to your sleight of hand. You're using the thieves tools as like a separate check.
Right. So think of tools as the same as more skills.
Yeah.
So like you wouldn't make an investigation check and a perception check at the same time. You would make one of the two. Mm-hmm. Similarly, you wouldn't make a sleight of hand check plus, a thieves tools check. You would just make a thieves tools check.
Yeah.
The difference being that while skills are generally tied to one ability score, of course you can change the ability score that a skill uses, but while skills are generally tied to one ability score, tools, I think, are much more situation dependent.
Yeah.
So while a lot of people would say Dex always goes with thieves tools, I could see an argument for maybe using strength if you're trying to like
pry something
open, or like maybe the lock is really rusted.
Yeah.
Maybe the lock is puzzle based and you have to use your intelligence.
Yeah.
Or maybe like it just takes hours and hours to unlock, so you use your con or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
There could be an argument made for most ability scores.
It's a lock with an intelligence, so you have to use your charisma score.
Sure. Yeah. Or yeah, just some sort of like a magical lock, or it's one that is based on like feel, like maybe like you have to hold it and then you have to like roll it back and forth while something inside is rolling around.
Yeah.
Kind of like in the game 1-2 Switch.
Oh, yeah,
Switch,
yeah.
There's some sort of little mini game where like you hold the Joy-Con in your hand and it makes it feel like there's balls rolling around inside and you have to guess how many there are.
Yeah.
Based on that. So similarly, yeah, I could see that going off of wisdom. Mm-hmm. If you have to like use like very, very delicate feel and sound to figure out to open it or whatever. So so tools are just more skills. You would never use two of them in conjunction. Maybe in certain situations, if you have, like I would say if you had proficiency in sleight of hand, maybe I would give you advantage on a thieves tools check in certain situations or something.
Right.
But I would never like add them together, which is what I actually see a lot of people do. I feel like I see a lot of people like they don't know how it works. So it's like, yeah, make a sleight of hand check. Plus, I guess your thieves tools modifier or something. I don't know. Anyway, so I think tools are really cool. They don't get used very much. And then I also really like stuff that has to do with cooking.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I remember there being, I don't think I read it, but I think Jay told me about, there was a book he was reading where there was a character that had like a magic bowl that it could, at any time, it could produce any food that had been put inside of it. So if he found a food that he really liked, let's say it was like a stew or like, I don't know, a cake or something, put it in the bowl. The bowl now has that added to its library. Menu, I guess. And then anytime he wants to, he could have an exact duplicate of that exact cake or that exact stew or so on. Mm. So then it's like he basically just goes around, finds all of the best foods, all the like the things that he loves the most, puts them in the bowl, and then he can recreate that anytime he wants.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a replicator, I guess, from Star Trek.
Yeah. It's pretty good.
Yeah. So anyway, I almost picture this maybe having some sort of an upgraded form that lets you do that. So it's not just that it makes you give people temporary hit points, but also it can produce like specific foods on command.
Yeah. So like I'm picturing it be like you put water in like a pot or something that you stir it with the spoon and then it kind of congeals into whatever the thing that you want.
Yeah.
You know, in Star Wars Force Awakens.
Okay.
Towards the beginning when she like gets her ration.
Oh yeah,
like the little like she puts it in the water and then it like puffs out.
It turns into like a loaf of bread,
right, or something like that. Yeah, that was like sort of neat. But like, yeah, I'm picturing something like that.
Yeah. So I think this is a fun item. It's relatively simple. It just gives a D4 plus 4 temporary hit points for up to 6 hours. But I like the flavor of it. I really like, these are like cook's utensils that have been used for a really long time. It's an heirloom. You could produce, food for possibly a lot of people, depending on how much food you put in and so on.
Yeah. I'd be interested to see more tool-based stuff, like magic items and stuff. That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think that'll do it for the Dragon's Hoard today. Once again, that was the Seasoned Cook's Utensils submitted by Tim D via email. So, Jeff, we already kind of covered it earlier, but if somebody had any Dragon's Hoard items for us, questions for us to discuss, be they regular questions, Halloween questions, or off-topic questions, or if they had stories for the funeral pyre, how would they get those to us?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com.
Yes. Before we go any further, I want to mention we do have a Patreon, and I'm putting this before our Chapel on the Cliffs drawing unintentionally, but I'm going to use it for this purpose because we have a new patron this month. And we also have an upgrading patron.
Sure.
I don't know if we've ever given a shout out to upgrading patrons in the past, but if we have not, I do apologize to anybody. If we have had any that I didn't shout out, I do apologize, but I figure why not? Why not go ahead and shout out somebody that is upgraded? So Adam G is our new patron. So thank you so much, Adam G. And then Caitlin L has upgraded her pledge. So thank you so much to you too.
Woo!
That's really cool. So our Patreon, for anybody who is not familiar with Patreon, it is it's an online service where you can pledge to give a monthly donation to us or to whoever you're giving it to. And then it'll help us make the show better. You get bonus content for it. We have bonus episodes. We've got a monthly Roll20 game. We've got outtakes. I will write fantasy fiction about your character and so on and so on. So we've got some really cool rewards on there. If anybody wanted to check that out, even $1 a month gets you some cool bonus content. And you can find us at patreon.com/InterPartyConflict. After that, let's talk about our Chapel on the Cliffs drawing for this week.
Yep.
Once again, we're giving out that Chapel on the Cliffs adventure from Goblinstone. It is a 5th edition adventure for low-level PCs. And Jeff, who is our winner today?
Our winner today is Pete F.
Whoa, winner.
Gobble, gobble, gobble.
Yes, congratulations, Pete F. Pete F is actually a friend of ours.
Yeah.
He was at, if anybody was watching the stream when we did our arcade stream, he was there playing with us, and you can find him on twitch.tv/genericgamer.
Yeah.
So he's a good friend of ours, great guy, and I'm glad that he got a free copy of Chapel on the Cliffs.
Woohoo!
So congratulations to him. If anybody else wanted to enter this drawing, Jeff, how would they do so?
They can send us an email at interpartyconflict@gmail.com with Chapel on the Cliffs in the subject line.
Yes, it is very, very easy, and we don't have a ton of people on the list, so if you enter, you will very likely win very soon.
Yeah, your ads are good.
Yes. I also want to mention a couple other podcasts. Check out Crit Academy at critacademy.com. They create new and reusable content for players and DMs alike. Justin, Ian, and Brandon, great hosts. Go check them out. Also, D&D Character Lab. You can find them on iTunes, Stitcher, all that sort of stuff. So check them out. Garen and Dan make characters and then pit them against each other and debate whose character is better. Mm-hmm. So lots of fun. Such a great show. Check them out. Also, check out their Halloween episode when Halloween comes out.
Yeah, whenever that one.
Maybe it's going to be a good episode. Who knows?
Who knows? I don't know. It could be all right. It's probably fine. It's fine.
Probably, yeah. All right, Jeff, you want to get into this episode?
Yeah, sure. Our first question comes from Marshall from work.
Yeah, this is a coworker of mine.
Okay,
he found out I had a D&D podcast, and he's been listening to it, and he stopped by and asked me this question a little while ago.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on playing a blind character?
Yeah, so this is a common trope, I would say. It's been in lots of, it's been in like legend, like real world legend. It's been in cartoons. It's been in movies.
Yeah, the blind samurai or the blind swordsman.
Exactly. So like I want to say it was an actual Japanese legend of Zatoichi. Was that his name?
I'm not sure.
I'm actually going to I don't usually do this. I'm going to take a quick second and Google that. Okay. That is, Zatoichi is who I was thinking of, but I guess it is not based on legend. That was a character in a movie, I guess.
Okay.
My mistake. I'm pretty sure there is some sort of a like classical legend about some sort of a blind swordsman. But so there's that. There's in Rogue One, a fairly recent movie. One of the characters in that is a blind Jedi, basically.
Right, yeah.
I guess he's not technically a Jedi, but
he's a blind Force user.
Sure. So this is a common thing. Have you ever played, Jeff? Have you ever played in a group where somebody made a blind character? Or wanted to? Maybe didn't actually make it, but wanted to.
I can't remember any specific time, no.
Okay. I've never played a blind character myself. And I suppose, do you want to also extend this to be characters with a disability or just blind characters?
Well, we can extend it because like that plays into it where it's like that's a major, you know, handicap to have for a character. So like playing, you know, it could be a tricky thing for the DM to work with, and it can also be, you know, harder for the player to deal with than they originally think. Like it's like, oh, this is so cool. I'll just you know, he's just so good at his listen checks or something like that. But it's like, well, the rules don't really work in that way.
Sure.
But you know it could be done.
Yeah, well, I've never played a blind character. I played a mute character once. I guess I'll talk about that in a little bit. But there was one time I ran a game where Steve's character, Steve wanted to make a blind character because in 3rd edition, there was a magic item that came out in the Arms and Equipment Guide that was the Blindfold of True Darkness, I think it was called. Basically, it was a blindfold that you put on. It made you, like, while you were wearing it, you couldn't see anything if you weren't already blind, but it gave you blind sight out to like 30 feet.
Okay.
Which is really good.
Yeah.
You know, by itself, but I'll get to whether I think it works or not a little later, but Steve wanted his character to be blind, but have one of those things. And then he wanted to also be disguising himself so that nobody knew he was blind, kind of like Daredevil.
Sure.
But,
yeah.
Less cool, I guess. I don't remember much about his. He wasn't like a superhero or anything. He just was blind, but he didn't want anybody to know it.
Okay.
So I'm going to say that, and I'll be talking specifically about blindness first. We can talk about other disabilities after that. As a whole, I think that this is a tired trope that kind of needs to go away.
Okay.
Now, I just think that it's cool when it happens. But like you were kind of getting at, D&D isn't really meant for that. Mm-hmm. If you want to make a character that's blind, you're going to be taking such horrendous penalties that your character is basically going to be unplayable unless you have some method of mitigating your blindness. In which case, I have to ask, why make a blind character if you are going to get rid of all of the downsides of playing a blind character?
Yeah.
Let me actually make this even more broad. Let's say you want to play a character with something like Vow of Poverty. Because in 3rd edition especially, there were lots of options for if you wanted to play a character that had taken a vow of poverty, had taken a vow of pacifism. There were like several vows in the Book of Exalted Deeds that you could take.
Right, yeah.
And the problem with all of these is that they gave you so many benefits that there was no downside to doing it. Sure, you had to do things a little differently. Yeah. But you didn't... The whole point of taking a vow should be that your character is you as the player are purposely making it harder for yourself. Like I want to say it was 4th edition. There was a book that came out where there was a vow of poverty option or some sort of vow or something. And it didn't have any mechanical benefits. And people got upset. They were like, why would I ever take this for my character? And one of the developers of the game, whoever wrote the book that it was in, was like, yeah, why would you take a vow, throwing it back at them and say like, why are you taking a penalty purposely because it's not a penalty? You know what I mean?
Right.
Does that make sense? So you either have to decide whether your character is going to be disabled and take all of the drawbacks of doing so, or do you not want those drawbacks? If you don't want those drawbacks, if you just want it to be a flavor thing, then just have it be a flavor thing. If somebody wanted to play a character that was blind story-wise, but mechanically they could see just as well as anybody else.
Right.
Sure, go for it. I'm fine with that. And then describe, it's not that you saw the bad guy, it's that you heard his footsteps or, you know, you felt the wind as he ran past you or something like that.
Yeah. Although the only issue with that is like dealing with like darkness and stuff like that. At that point, it's like, all right, well then how are they unable to see in darkness if the mechanics aren't going to be different? So like, I feel like, yeah, it's sort of a way to be like, oh, well, my character's going to have a blind sense. It's like, oh, all right, what race is that just has blind sense?
Right.
Not to say that there isn't one.
I mean, I think there probably are, but so I don't know. It's just you gotta ask: do you want it to be a mechanical thing or do you not? And if you want it to be a mechanical thing, then I don't know. In most cases, the drawbacks are going to be so bad. You're going to have to play the game differently. Mm-hmm. Sometimes that's what somebody wants. Sometimes somebody does want to have a harder time doing certain things. Okay, if someone said, I want to be blind and suffer all the penalties of being blind, but in exchange, something else is better.
Right.
I would be willing to work with that. But with something like Vow of Poverty in 3rd edition, I mean, again, this isn't blindness, but you forewent getting treasure and instead got so many bonuses to everything that you were as good or better than if you got treasure.
Yeah.
So I think Vow of Poverty is probably the biggest extreme in the wrong direction.
Yeah.
Because all of the penalties you took were dwarfed by the equivalent benefits you got. You essentially didn't have any sort of a penalty because you couldn't get a +3 sword, but you got a +3 bonus to your natural attacks because of the Vow of Poverty. And you dealt, extra damage and you got all this other stuff. And so in those cases, they really kind of went overboard with what benefits it gave you. Mm-hmm. So if it were something that like you were still, I don't ever want someone to make a decision like this and then not have times when they regret that decision. If you are making a character where you're purposely taking a huge drawback, that drawback should come into play.
Yeah.
Here's a short little tangent that I think will illustrate this pretty well.
Okay.
In the Adventure Zone, great podcast. Everybody should go check it out. The current story that they're going through, they're using a different role-playing game. It's not D&D. It's called like Monster of the Week or something. But in that, when the characters level up at a certain point, they gain a hideout, or at least one of the character archetypes gets a hideout. So Griffin, the DM, just gave it to the players because they didn't have that character in their party. So you get a hideout. And then when you're building your hideout, you choose what rooms. You can choose like 3 rooms that are going to be there. Mechanically, like story-wise, you can have whatever, but like you could choose from an infirmary where anytime someone gets wounded, it's easier to patch them up. Mm-hmm. You could have like an arcane library where if there's ever something that you're encountering that is like magical, you can research it, you can enhance it, and so on. There was, and so on and so on, stuff like that. At one point, one of the players was saying, I really like the idea of having an infirmary, but we've never really needed an infirmary so far, so I feel like it might be wasted if we got it. So Griffin, the DM, in one of my favorite DMing moments that I've ever heard, he said to the players, okay, tell you what, if you take the infirmary, I will make sure that there is a time in a future adventure where you are glad that you had the infirmary. Likewise, if you don't take the infirmary, I will make sure that in a future adventure, you will wish you had taken the infirmary. I think that is a perfect representation of how you should deal with giving a character voluntary drawbacks like blindness or missing a limb or being mute or so on. There should absolutely be times where it sucks.
Yeah.
If the DM wants, there should be also times where it, whatever like they're given in exchange, if they're given anything in exchange, there should be times when that shines too. But there should never be a point where it doesn't matter whether they have this drawback or not. Mm-hmm. If you want to make your character blind, there should always be things that you can't do because your character is blind.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? I just feel like everybody who they want to make a blind character for the cool cinematic aspect of it.
Right.
But then they don't want to have to deal with the fact that, there are things they just can't do because they're blind.
Yeah, there will be a lot of mechanics that like you'll be like, oh, I do this, and the DM will go like, well, you can't because you can't see them.
Sure, exactly.
It's like you can't cast that spell because you can't see them. Like
here's another example of a similar thing, and this actually does harken back to Steve's character where he wanted to be blind. Back in 3rd edition, when you were making magic items, there were very I would say well thought out guidelines on making magic items in 3rd edition. They could be broken, of course. Anything with magic items and with that sort of freedom can be broken. But one of the things is that you could make a magic item cost less by making it only work for certain people. A lot of people criticize this because they were like, that just makes it more powerful because that means the enemy can't take it from me and use it against me. Yeah. They would also say, like, if I build a door, it's going to be more expensive to make that door not open for some people than not.
Sure.
Which I think is a bad example. I think a better example is you're making a security door with a key card. If that key card opens for one specific card, that's probably going to be pretty expensive. But to make it work for any of a specific type of card, it's going to be less expensive.
Sure.
Because anyone with this type of card can get through. But if it is keyed to one specific card, that would be harder to do and make work correctly. Anyway, there was a time when, so in this campaign, Steve was playing this blind character. He said, I want to make a ring of invisibility that only works for me. And I was hesitant, but I said, okay, sure, I can find cool ways to involve a ring of invisibility. So I let him have it. And then there came an adventure where the players were running away from bad guys. Steve made himself invisible. And then Jay was like, hey, make me invisible too. And then we realized he can't. That is why this cost less than if it was just a regular ring of invisibility. He can't make you invisible. You have to find some other way to hide from these guards.
Right.
That's the drawback.
Sure.
If I had let him have that benefit without any of the drawbacks of it only working for him, then, why give the drawbacks to begin with?
Right. Yeah. Why make it cheaper? Yeah.
There was a time where I was playing a Mutants and Masterminds campaign with Chris.
Dang.
And so I was playing a character with I had telekinesis. That was my main thing. I could also turn invisible and I could turn incorporeal. My character's name was Poltergeist.
Okay.
I eventually made it so that I could possess objects as well.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. But in that game, in Mutants and Masterminds, at least in the 1st edition, there were lots of drawbacks you could give your character. There could be drawbacks to you could give flaws to a given power. So you can make it so that you have energy blasts, but I don't know, every time you use them, they get weaker until you can rest or something. Or you can make it so that you have super strength, but it is reliant on having this belt. So if you lose that belt, you don't have the power. And then that makes those powers less expensive. So you can have them with these drawbacks. There are also character drawbacks you can give yourself that just give you a flat amount of points that let you buy more abilities with.
Right, yeah.
And so in this campaign, I gave my character the mute drawback. And I never really played a mute character or thought much about playing a mute character, but I thought, hey, I'll give it a shot. And there's always role-playing ways to get around being mute.
Right.
But there were most certainly times in this campaign where I couldn't communicate effectively with the other people in the party. Yeah. I am currently playing a character in my group with my friends at work where I'm playing the shoulder, where the only thing my character can say is the shoulder. And although I am very tempted to roleplay things like my character expresses to you that he wants to do this, I have to stop myself from doing that. And there have been times when I can't effectively communicate with the rest of the party what I want. There was a time, I don't know if I did this, but I have in my notebook, I have a little diagram that I drew. Did I show you this?
You did. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we were investigating. There was some guy that he turned up dead. He worked for the city. We were getting some information from him. He turned up dead. We went to his house and the house was empty except for his dead body. We found out that he had a wife and his wife was missing. And I, the player, thought to myself, oh my goodness, what I think happened is that the bad guys, because we're investigating this criminal organization, they probably kidnapped the wife to use her as leverage to stop him from giving us information. And then when he didn't comply, they killed him, is what I thought happened. Mm-hmm. I don't think that actually right now, I don't think that's actually what happened. I think it was something else, but I was trying really hard to find a way to communicate that to the rest of the party because all I can say is the shoulder. I couldn't say it. So what I did was I drew a little diagram. I drew two little stick people, one of which had a dress. That's how you show it's a girl, apparently. And then I drew a guy over on the right with angry eyes, because that's how you show it's a bad guy.
Right.
And then I drew like an arrow from the bad guy over to the person with the dress. And then I drew an arrow from the person with the dress off to the corner of the page. And then I think I drew like an X over the remaining stick figure person, trying to indicate bad guy came, took the woman and left with her, and then crossed out the other guy or something. I thought this was pretty clever. Nobody else in the group had any clue what I was trying to say. And I think that fits the character. It didn't help in the game. In fact, it made that situation harder, because what I wanted to do, like I wanted to try and investigate whatever,
right.
we couldn't, because I wasn't able to express that to the rest of the party.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I think that situation is a little different, because I'm not looking for a benefit. I just kind of had a goofy idea for a character.
Right.
And I am very much feeling the drawbacks of it. I think if the DM said to me like, hey, because you can't speak, I'll give you, you know, I don't know, a +5 to intimidate or something like that, I would say no, because sure, that might make sense, but that kind of mitigates the drawback of what I'm trying to do. You know what I mean? So, sorry. So I was talking about my character who was mute.
All right.
There was a time in that game where we were recruiting more superheroes. We had gotten a couple more players, and my character was sent to go get one of them from their house. When I got there, hold on. Okay. When I got there, because my character, he could do sign language. You know, he was pretty intelligent, and also he like worked for like a Tony Stark type character. And so I went to this person's house to go and recruit them to join us. And I got there and found out that player's character was blind.
Oh, no.
And I realized I have no way of communicating with this person. In the end, we both figured out that we both knew Morse code. So I could tap out a message, and then she could tap back another. I guess she didn't have to tap back. She could speak.
Yeah.
But like we communicated through tapping, which was that session was very frustrating, because like we couldn't really communicate very well. And then it took us a while to find out that we knew Morse code. So, you know, there were times where I wanted to speak as my character, but I couldn't.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Uh-huh.
And I think that if you're going to give a character a drawback like that, I feel like it should be a drawback. If there is going to be any sort of a benefit given in exchange, I really think that it should be in as separate of an area as possible, so that you never are not feeling the drawback.
Right. So
you know what I mean?
It's not a benefit that replaces, like, so like you're not getting blind sense in the form of
correct
your sight.
Correct.
You'd be like, okay, you're really fast.
Yeah.
You know, like you're blind, but you're also very quick.
Yeah.
You know,
I'm trying to think of what I think would be a good one in exchange for blindness. I would say maybe, I don't know, maybe something like you're blind, but you're really strong.
Mm-hmm.
Because you'll have a hard time finding an enemy to hit them, but when you hit them, you hit them.
Sure.
Or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know if that's, don't hold me to that. That's not like, oh man, I've been thinking about this for hours, and that's the best example I can come up with. That's just something off the top of my head.
Yeah.
But I really don't like, I would not like Daredevil as a character in a D&D game, because it's like, oh, you're blind. What things are you not better than a sighted person in every way? You know what I mean? Maybe Daredevil can't see someone that's like 1,000 feet away or something, whereas maybe a person with binoculars could. I don't know. I don't really know much about Daredevil, but like in 3rd edition, the Blind Sight of True Darkness, I think it was called. The drawback to using that is that if an enemy is outside of the sight of your blind sight, you cannot see them.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can see someone really, really well when they're right up close to you.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Even
they
if
can just
they're-
shoot you with a bow, and there's nothing you can do about it.
Yeah. So it's like you can see basically anybody who's like invisible or whatever. You just know where they are in space.
Right.
You know, but if they're beyond the range of that, blind sight, they might as well just be invisible.
Yeah, that item, I do think that it is a bad item. I think that it is too powerful for what it does, because if you are not already blind, you can just put on the blindfold, get blind sight, and then take it off.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason you couldn't be in combat, An enemy goes invisible, you slip it on, you then move up and attack them.
Right.
Some people I remember have house ruled it as being like you have to be wearing it for a certain amount of time before it works.
Sure.
Which I think that's a pretty good limiting factor on it.
Yeah.
But I don't know, just something that takes that gives you a disability, but then gives you a benefit that almost entirely eliminates that disability. Why give yourself a disability? I keep coming back to Vow of Poverty. It was so awful because everything that you would get from having magic items, you got through Vow of Poverty. The only downside was that I guess you had to wait until you got it at a certain level, as opposed to maybe finding it in a treasure chest somewhere.
Yeah.
But then once you had it, it couldn't be taken away. It was so broken.
Unless you broke that vow, I guess. But
I mean,
but if you're getting all those benefits, why would you?
Exactly. Players don't purposely make mistakes with their character. Like, I feel like it is so rare for a paladin to like break their vow unless the player intends for it to happen.
Yeah.
Because as human beings, sometimes we do things by mistake. If there was a removed, semi-omniscient being that could see what I was about to do and see what I just did and be like, whoa, hang on, I didn't mean to do that, and then rewind time a few seconds.
Right.
So many mistakes that human beings make would never get made.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean? I don't know. So this we're kind of getting into a little bit in the weeds here, but I guess my end thought here is just that, like, I think that in fiction it is neat, the whole blind swordsman thing, but I think that it always ends up exactly the same. It always ends up with somebody that is so much better than people that can see. We never see the years and years and years where they are getting smacked in the face constantly. They are failing at everything that they do. We never see the growth.
Right.
We only ever see the superhero end result. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I feel like unless you are going to be role-playing all of that training, or at least role-playing all of the downsides, I don't think it works in a role-playing game. And even in fiction, I feel like it is overdone. I think it's not done that often, but when it's done, it's always the same thing, and it is never a downside.
Yeah. It might be, it could just be worth a try. And like, if you're going in expecting to like your character to fail at some point, cause they're blind and they're going into dungeons and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, maybe give it a shot. Maybe you can, maybe you could, you could figure something out.
Sure.
For
a one shot, go for it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Cause like, that'd be a neat thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. Cause a lot of times there'll be like you pick a flaw, but then you get like a bonus feat for it or something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like the idea is that you have this drawback, but the cool part about like the blind swordsman and things like it is like, well, they've heightened their other senses beyond that of anybody else.
Right.
So like they're basically better off blind than they were, just a normal person for whatever reason.
Yeah.
For whatever, like, supernatural reason.
Like, okay, let's say, I'll say Hawkeye.
Yeah, sure. Okay, yeah, let's go with Hawkeye.
I don't know much about Hawkeye, but let's say Hawkeye's just minding his own business and somebody like throws a rock at him. What's he going to do? Maybe he's going to get hit by a rock, I imagine, right?
Yeah.
Maybe he'll like just barely dodge out of the way or something like that. But, he's a normal dude. Somebody's going to throw a rock at him when he's not expecting it. It's probably going to hit him.
Yeah.
Daredevil is going to see that coming like a mile away. He's going to see even if he is like not, he can't see, but like even if he's facing away, he's going to know that somebody just walked up. He's going to know they're holding a rock in their hand. He's going to see the rock. He's going to see the wind up. He's going to see them throwing it. Then he's going to do some crazy acrobatic thing that, he like catches it and throws it back or something. So at what point was his blindness a downside?
Right. Yeah.
It wasn't. I mean, I guess maybe that's kind of a specific example, but
right.
I don't know. I feel like that trope, in fiction, it is never a downside because it's always written with that character in mind. It's only a downside right before he, gets his second win and then beats the bad guy. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like in the Daredevil movie, and I know the Daredevil movie wasn't great, but like the only time it is ever an issue is right at the dramatic climax and then like the fighting climax. Like there's some point where like a big explosion throws off his vision, and then like some friend of his dies or something. And then at the end, when the bad guy like rings a bell and then beats him down, but then he wins. He wins because of his ability to see things. I don't know where I'm going with this, Jeff. Please save me from this.
I'm sorry. I've gone blind.
Oh no,
I can't do anything about it.
You could say you've gone deaf.
Oh sure.
So anyway, I just think that it's a neat idea, but I don't think it is ever used well.
Yeah.
I don't know if anybody out there has had any experiences with playing this type of character and it went well. Let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would like to hear it.
Yeah, or like if there's anybody has any like there would have to be some pretty like big changes to the rules, I feel like, to do it well.
Yeah, the game just is not designed for it.
Mm-hmm.
If it were something like Mutants and Masterminds, you could do that all day. Yeah. There are so many things you could do to give yourself, blindness, as well as the way to avoid having blindness, and so on and so on. D&D, just the penalties for, I guess in 5th edition it is a little bit less so, because a lot of stuff just comes down to like disadvantage and so on. But D&D just isn't really meant for it.
Yeah, D&D 5th edition. That's right, because like you can't really get too much worse than disadvantage.
Pretty much.
If you're just always taking disadvantage. You could just kind of like resign yourself to like, well, I'm going to roll 2 dice every time. That's fine.
I mean, you do still have to attack the right square,
right?
Which is an important thing.
Right.
In 3rd edition, you had to find the right square.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you had to make a listen check to know what square it was coming from. If you succeeded, you might know where the right square is. You might not, depending on conditions and so on. And then even if you knew where they were, if you made an attack and you hit their AC, you still had a 50% chance to just miss.
Right.
Even if you knew exactly where they were, because you couldn't see them, unless you had blind sight, you might just miss. I think I've shared a story about, there was one of my first games I played in, there was a dragon that cast darkness on itself.
Right.
And we were fighting this thing. We managed to get it down to 1 hit point. It was flying away. It was like hundreds of feet away. The fighter drew his bow, fired his bow at the very center of that giant sphere of blackness that's flying away. Natural 20, and then failed the mischance, and it got away.
Jeez.
So anyway, I think that'll do it for this question. I could probably rant some more, but it wouldn't really go anywhere. So I guess let's move on to our social media question, because we're getting close to the end of the episode this week. And last week's social media question was, you're starting a new D&D campaign and you have to limit the players to only 5 PC races. What races do you choose and why? Mm-hmm. Do you recall what you said?
I think it was Warforged, and Turtle.
Sounds about right. I haven't finished editing last week's episode yet, but that sounds about right.
I guess if I had to be honest, it would be Warforged. I like Goliath.
Mm-hmm.
Kenku I thought was kind of neat. Turtle, and then Halfling.
I'm gonna be honest, I don't want to include any of those. Maybe Halfling. I don't know. For me, the why for me was really what made me choose the races I did, and I feel like races that have a lifespan significantly longer than humans, right, I feel like those should be relegated to NPCs. I mean, I'm not saying they should be, but like I would like to try that out.
Yeah. That's a neat idea.
So I was thinking humans, half-orcs, tieflings, what else did I say?
I think halflings were right around.
No, because halflings, they live to be like 200 or something. I think I said half elves, even though they do live a bit longer than humans. And now I can't remember what my other thing was. So it's something like that. I think I might have. I don't remember what the other one was I said.
Turtles only live to be 50.
Seriously?
Yeah, like the race that is based off of what are the few animals that lives multiple centuries long.
Well, maybe I'll include turtles.
Yeah, like turtles only live to be 50 years old. Like they have they have half the lifespan of a human.
Yeah,
and they're based on turtles and tortoises, which in real life live to be like several hundred years old sometimes.
Yeah. Just so the whole reason that I chose the races that I did or didn't or whatever is just because like I I'm very big on getting into the mindset of my character. And so I usually end up playing characters that are as close to human as possible just because, humans are never bad. And then also I find it the easiest to get into the mindset of playing a human. I think that playing a race that lives several hundred years is something that a lot of people don't think much about. Mm-hmm. I think that would really change a lot about how you view things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always like the picture of like, you have a human like wizard who's like old and gray and like he's well learned and like he spent, most of his life studying magic, and you put him in a group of a bunch of elves who are older than he is, and you're and like he's kind of that player who made the wizard is going to try like, I want to be the old, the wise man of the group, and it's like, well, you're the youngest one here,
right?
So
I think shifters was the other one that I said.
Oh sure, yeah. I think that, you're right. I think that was it.
Yeah. So we actually did get a lot of responses, and a lot of the responses we got were really long. So we're not gonna read all of them. Collins B on Facebook said, if I had to put a limit on it, I always like encouraging new races or ones that don't get used often. It would be fun to run an Eberron game, limiting races to the ones from the Wayfinder's Guide to Eberron. Changeling, Shifter, Kalishtar, and Warforged, and then throw human in there since they have 3 different dragon-marked variants to choose from. I love this.
Sure.
I would love to run an Eberron campaign exactly like that.
Yeah.
And maybe even limit the group to only having one of each. So like assuming there aren't more than 5 players, say there can't be 2 humans, there can't be 2 Warforged, just one of each.
Right, yeah.
And so on. So I thought that was really neat.
Warforged, obviously.
Obviously. A few people were kind of like saying, well, I wouldn't want to limit my group. And I understand that. I understand that it's, I'm not saying that you should. I'm just saying as a thought experiment,
right?
If you have to, which ones do you pick?
If you had to pick 5, which ones?
It's like the question of like, if you could only eat one food for the rest of your life, bringing us all back to food. If you could only have one food for the rest of your life, what would it be? They're not saying you should only eat one food for the rest of your life. They're saying if you had to, what would you pick?
Yeah.
But Dan W said he if he had to choose at gunpoint, human, elf, dwarf, halfling, and gnome, because half-breeds and uncommon races can be cool, but fall into the special snowflake category, which I kind of agree with. He's not saying that like, I don't think he's making any sort of qualitative judgment about the people that play them. I think he's just saying that when you have someone that's like a dragonborn or a tiefling or whatever, the game kind of has to be about them.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Extent.
Yeah, because like, if you're part dragon or part demon or something like that, or part orc even, like...
Or like, if you're a lizard folk, like the game has to be about why is it okay for this lizard folk to be walking around. Exactly.
Yeah. No, that definitely comes up because I'm playing a lizard folk right now, and like, it's sort of just like, oh, and who's your friend here? Like,
right. So I can understand that. Then he goes on to say, building a campaign where those races are actually uncommon instead of the entire party being made up of them. It would be interesting, especially to see how brand new players would react when you describe a Dragonborn, Goliath, or half-orc for the first time. Which I think that could be really, really cool. If their characters have like never really encountered that type of character before, and then whoa, there's a dragonborn. There's like a dragon person walking around this town.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But he does still reiterate that he would not limit his party. Fine. I'm not saying you have to, but on Twitter, we've got a few. Justin from Crit Academy, he has a short little answer here. Halfling, because everyone loves those little bastards. Dwarf, because who else is going to have a penchant for ale? Elf, because every guy wishes to roll as a slender exotic beauty. Tiefling, everyone wants to release the demon within, and Warforged, because who doesn't want to be like AI? So, that's a short little blurb for each one. That's pretty cool. At Carl Linsmeyer says, Goblin, Hobgoblin, Bugbear, Orc, and Kobold. All of these stupid adventurers keep coming into their villages and messing things up, so a group of monsters stand up for what's theirs.
Yeah.
I like it. If that's the campaign, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
Go for it. I do want to read these two because these are new. I think I want to start reading them if they're from people that are not usual, that are not our regulars.
Yeah.
At Tech Noir says the 4 varieties of Genasi and Warforged. So like 4 different Genasi and then Warforged.
Cool.
Have a world of people tied to the elemental forces and the Warforged they created. The elves and their human minions have come to the world to destroy it with their divine magic and gods. Gods have no place in the elemental world.
Neat.
I once had the idea for, I think Chris was going to be running an epic level one-shot for us. And I had the idea we were going to be 40th level, I think. It was going to be ridiculous. So third edition.
Right.
So like 20 levels of 2 classes.
Oh, man.
I was going to make a character that was a Warforged cleric monk with back in 3rd edition when clerics, there were like different elemental domains.
Right, yeah.
So I was going to have each of the 4 elemental domains using epic feats to give myself additional domains. So the idea was going to be that my character was originally like a cosmic battery for elemental energy. If the earth ever ran out or started to run low on fire or water or air or earth, my character was like at the earth's core. He was the battery that would, like that would jumpstart whatever.
All right, that sounds like awesome, but really it's like he's just sitting at a switchboard or something.
I mean, kind of. But then something goes wrong and then he wakes up and then has to go out into the world and find out what this problem is. So I thought that was neat. And this kind of reminds me of that Warforged plus the 4 elemental extremes. I think that's really cool.
Yeah.
At Spilled Ale, so Spilled Ale Studios says, I have 5 players, so I suppose I might ask them what races they absolutely want in the world and then build around their choices.
Sure.
So, okay. That's a bit of a cop out, but I'll take it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Yeah, you play to your players.
So Colin M at Stands in the Fire said monodrone, duodrone, tridrone, quadrone, and pentadrone. Players would upgrade themselves or downgrade as needed to solve problems and make it through dystopian mechanists.
Ooh.
So those are the 5 variations of, if I'm not mistaken, 5 variations of modrons.
Yeah.
Which are the native creatures to mechanists, the plane where everything's mechanical.
Right.
So a neat idea. I think that's really interesting. I do like modrons. I'm just I was not familiar with them being a player race, but I think it might be in one of the Unearthed Arcanas or something like that. But hey, again, if that's what the campaign is, awesome. I would love to take part in that.
Go for it.
On Reddit, Lone Rev says, while I'm here, I'll answer for Jeff since I'm a mind flayer that can read minds.
Oh.
Warforged, and Warforged.
Wait, how did he know that? Oh, he's a mind flayer.
He's a mind flayer,
Crap.
Yeah. They also gave an actual answer. Human, elf, dwarf, tiefling are easy picks because they're the ones I'd imagine the players would be most upset not to play. Plus, they don't break my immersion like a turtle does. For the final race, I'd probably pick Dragonborn because the idea of either artificially created Dragonborn race or an advanced Dragonborn race based on science or magic intrigues me. Plus, dragon people are cool. So, that's kind of cool. And I like that their answer was like, it wasn't just, I just picked these. It's like they're thought out for why they would include them.
Yeah. I had kind of a neat idea.
What's that?
Going with the more like episodic campaigns and stuff like that, where you start off with only like 5 base races. And then as you go on, you discover new races, and then you can like, you have to have some sort of like base of operations or something like that. So where, you could maybe change different characters.
Yeah.
So you can like in a video game where you have like just a bunch of characters to pick from. And so like, okay, this adventure, we're going to send these 4 people, and this adventure we might send these 4 people. So like you wouldn't bring everybody along, but you would choose like, as you went along and discovered new races, you could make a character of that race.
I like that idea. And here's that made me think of. The DM starts a campaign. He's already got all of the characters statted out. He's got 5 characters statted out. The players then pick them, not personality based. The players are free to do whatever they want with the personality. But mechanics wise, they've already gotten their race and class and background. And then as the game goes on, the DM will introduce a new character that is part, again, like you were saying, is at their base of operations. At any point, one of the players can set aside their current character and start playing that new character. If the character has not been played by anybody, that player is free to come up with the, backstory or the personality and so on. And then anybody can pick up any character that's not currently being played. So if you notice that somebody else is playing a really fun paladin or something, and they go on to play that new Dragonborn rogue or whatever, you could start playing the paladin.
You pick up the paladin.
For a little while. So and then while you are in control of that character, like you have to take into account what the players before you have done.
Sure.
But you are free to take it in whatever direction you want. If you want that paladin to now start branching out into a warlock or something like that.
Right, yeah.
Well, you're the one in control of that character, so you can do it. But then you might set that character aside and take a new character. Someone else might take that paladin warlock and then say, I've decided to go back to being just paladin. I want to beg my god to take away my warlock powers or
Sure.
or something. I don't know. I think that could be an interesting way to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
That'd be interesting.
I feel like it is at the same time both more gamey and also more roleplay focused because you get to put yourself in some other character's shoes and play as that character.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Anyway. On Reddit, 00 Jiminy Cricket says an idea I've been toying with for a campaign is a scouting party to another plane. So I'd probably go with human, dwarf, elf, half-orc, and halfling, but I enjoy the classics. So, again, like if it's you're making this for a specific campaign, I think just having like kind of the basics, the classics is probably a good way to go. Prosino also says I like the classics, also assuming they cooperate. It covers language and most interaction. Elf, dwarf, human, halfling, and the last one I'm not really sure. Maybe another human or gnome.
Okay.
So, yeah. And then Werebear Esquire says, if I were to do a race-limited campaign, it would probably be one in a classic Tolkien-esque tradition. So once again, going with the classics. Races would be what I consider to be classic fantasy races: human, elf, dwarf, halfling, and probably gnome, though I saw someone else mention Goliath, and I could see that working in a classic fantasy session.
Sure, yeah. Goliath isn't too big of a stretch. I don't think so.
Sure. I'm not a huge fan of Goliaths, but that's just me. I posed this question to my kids who are also fans of the podcast. Their answers, older son said, Kenku, Tabaxi, Aasimar, Hobgoblin, and Kobold, because it would be fun to play in a campaign where there were only super weird or exotic races.
Yeah.
That's cool. Again, if that's what the campaign's for, go for it. That sounds really cool. Then the younger son said, Tiefling, because free thaumaturgy is fun.
Yeah.
Human, just because they're good to have around. Dragonborn for their dragon breath. Halfling, his exact words were, because lucky and brave are just OP.
Yeah. And
half-orc, because they are cool.
Cool.
So yeah, there were some others on all platforms, but I think that's a good range of responses.
Yeah, good balance between like a lot of people like the classics, and some people like to go a little crazy, and some people are awesome and just want all Warforged, but whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. So our social media question for this coming week is, when is the best time to play, during day or night? So what is your opinion? Would you rather play daytime, nighttime?
Yeah.
What would you want?
It does kind of depend, but like I feel like the last few like campaigns I've been in is during like the daytime, which I kind of like, because so it's like, you get to it a little bit earlier. You're more likely to set a like an end time. Yeah. Where at night you can sometimes be going into like 2, 3, 4 in the morning or something like that. You lose track of time because nobody's got anything scheduled for those times normally.
Pretty much, yeah.
So like during the day, I feel like you'll have a more it'll be a little bit more time constraint, but that can be a good thing sometimes, because you don't want to go too long for a session. Yeah, I feel pretty much exactly the same. I think like most of my games that I play in or run end up being night games. Just because like you're saying, like everybody's free at night for the most part. It's just, well, I gotta sleep. Yeah. Sleep is always something that people are more often to forego if it means doing something they want to be doing. Right, yeah. So games always end up being night, and they always end up going really late into the night in my experience. But the idea of playing during the day and being done and the sun is still out, oh my goodness, that's the greatest that's the greatest idea in the world to me. It's like, well, I can go and do things now? Exactly, yeah. Yeah, like when I do games at the library, it's only an hour and a half, but we're done by like 5:30. Yeah, it's not like you'd rather be doing other things other than playing the game, but it's nice to like do a thing that you love and then walk outside, and then you got that good mood going. You're like, I just played D&D today, and it's daylight. I'm gonna go get stuff done today. Sure. Yeah. See, I think you put it very well. So that'll do it for our questions for today. So now, before we close out the episode, I think we should let's sit back. Let's take a deep breath.
I still have my cough that I mentioned last week.
Oh, yeah?
Like, it's this persistent dry cough. I thought about going to see a doctor or something like that, but I read online that a persistent dry cough is really only something to be worried about if it's more than 8 weeks. I'm not quite at 8 weeks.
Sure.
Maybe 5 or 6. I feel like it is getting better, but it's not. It's taking its sweet time.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry, this is not Gabe's medicine corner. So let's toss another log onto the funeral pyre. So our funeral pyre story was submitted by Captain Griffin on Reddit, and is a nice little short one. A dark threat to the world and a willingness to pay the price. The ritual completion caught the party by surprise as I slit my own throat.
Oh, man.
So I'm guessing this player was doing some sort of a ritual and then as part of it killed himself.
Oh, jeez. Or like maybe...
I'm not sure.
Completion caught the party by surprise as I slit my own throat.
I'm not sure. Like they didn't give a ton of information, so
Yeah.
I don't know if it's that they were completing the ritual or they killed themselves to end the ritual.
Oh,
I don't know.
or maybe them killing themselves was the result of somebody else's ritual.
Oh, well, but it says a willingness to pay the price.
Okay.
I think I'm getting the impression that there was this evil bad guy. The only way to stop it was to do this ritual.
Sure.
Somebody had to pay the price. Somebody had to kill themselves. And then this player, I'm guessing, did it without consulting the rest of the party, was just like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to kill myself. Bam.
Right, yeah. It's like,
So-
yeah, it's one of those moments. It's like, oh no, what are we going to do? And somebody's like, I got this. Don't worry.
Yeah. Kind of like in Pirates of the Caribbean. Jack shoots Barbossa, and then he's like, you just wasted your bullet. But then they look over, and Orlando Bloom's... Will Turner has already cut his hand and dropped the gold.
Yeah, that does kind of make me think. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Anyway. So yeah, I think that's a fun little one. We don't usually get many that are someone intentionally killing themselves.
Sure.
It's usually either something else kills them or they kill themselves by mistake.
Well, the by mistake part, it's some of them just seem like, it's like, how did you not see that happening?
Sure.
You jumped into a river of lava to do what now? Like,
Right.
I mean, I guess that's never really happened, but
I don't know. It could. All right. So let's raise a glass in memory of this unnamed character who the bill came up and they took out their wallet and paid it.
they grabbed the check before anybody else
There you
did.
go. They grabbed the check before anybody else could get it. Clink. All right. Well, that'll do it for today. To submit questions for us to discuss, items for the Dragon's Hoard, or stories for the funeral pyre, please email us at interpartyconflict@gmail.com. For show notes, links to media mentioned on the show, and running lists of questions and magic items, go to interpartyconflict.com. Join the discussion on social media. Find us on Facebook, facebook.com/interpartyconflict, our subreddit at reddit.com/r/interpartyconflict, or on Twitter at InPartyConflict, or on our Discord for our weekly social media questions. Your answers might end up on the show. Find us on iTunes, Google Play Music, Stitcher, YouTube, anywhere you download podcasts. Please rate, review, subscribe, or just tell a friend. If you'd like to support the show, check out the rewards at patreon.com/interpartyconflict. There's a few different tiers, so anything you can spare, even $1 a month, would go towards making the show better, and you'll get bonus content for it. Jeff, tell us about FriendQuest.
FriendQuest is our YouTube channel where we play video games. I just got my hands on my old Nintendo.
Thumbs up from me.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to playing something from that. And then we're playing Zelda right now, so that's been pretty fun.
Jeff, I'll tell you, if you ever feel like playing Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, I have a copy of it. I found it, like I got rid of all my Nintendo stuff a long time ago. I sold it on Craigslist maybe 10 years ago. Mm-hmm. But I still have my copy of Mike Tyson's Punch-Out because someday Mike Tyson is going to die. And when that happens, that is going to be very valuable.
Sure, I guess.
Anyway, that sounds really dark. I apologize.
Sure. Sorry, Mike.
Yep. I wish Mike Tyson would listen to our podcast. That would be pretty cool. Mike Tyson, if you are out there, we would love to have you on as a guest. I apologize for wanting to profit off of your eventual demise. Please don't punch me.
Yeah, don't hurt him.
Anyway, if you'd like to submit some of your childhood memories of going to the arcade, or if you'd like to listen to other people's childhood memories of going to the arcade, you can check out the Arcade Memories podcast, which is a short little side project that I've made. You can submit your stories to me at arcadememoriespodcast@gmail.com. Also, head over to bit.ly/InterPartyConflict to take a short survey about our show. What you like, what you don't like, etc. And just for taking it, you'll get 2 free printable board games, courtesy of Mary and Tom over at hollandspiel.com. And our music is made by Boxcat Games from Nameless the Hackers RPG. And so, David Pumpkins, until next time...
Any questions?